Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Can you imagine a world where just a single moment, maybe a flash of light on some radar screen, could tip the entire planet into chaos? That's kind of the razor's edge we're exploring today. This deep dive pulls us into a really gripping military thriller where the unthinkable becomes, well, terrifyingly real in just the blink of an eye. So if you're looking for a breakdown of, complex geopolitical events and the raw intensity of military action that feels maybe a little too plausible, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Today we're diving into excerpts from Monroe Doctrine, Volume I by James Rosone, and you'll find the Amazon link for that down in the description. This isn't just a story about battles and strategy, okay? It's a chilling exploration of how rapidly escalating tensions, often fueled by cutting-edge tech and, frankly, human miscalculation, can lead us right to the brink. We're going to unpack the initial sparks of this global firestorm, looking at how a seemingly, maybe, local crisis can spiral into a terrifyingly immediate threat and reveal some pretty unsettling truths about the fragile state of our, interconnected world.
Yeah, what's fascinating right from the start is how Rosone just throws us into the heart of the tension. I mean, even before the first shot is really fired. We're on a Chinese vessel, okay? Just 10 minutes, they say, from a planned missile launch. And you have this weapons officer asking about uncover the launchers. It's a small moment, almost procedural, right? But it's just loaded with this incredible tension because you know what's about to happen. It really makes you think about all those unseen moments happening all around the world that could have just massive consequences.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the hardware itself, is it? We immediately get this glimpse into the technological underpinnings of this conflict with China's Dragon Link satellite network. It's presented as this global, low-cost internet provider. You know, sounds great, like it could benefit everyone, but then boom, we learn about this hidden military communication layer embedded right within it. It's a classic example of what people call dual-use technology. Think of it like technology that has both civilian and military uses, which makes it really tricky to regulate and, well, potentially allows for hidden military capabilities inside seemingly normal stuff like this Dragon Link network. So you see how easily a technology may have been meant to connect people can be flipped, turned into a tool for covert military comms. This really makes you think about the hidden potential in all sorts of, seemingly innocent technologies, doesn't it?
Exactly. And this contrast between the public face of a technology and its hidden military purpose, that's a recurring theme you see in modern conflict scenarios. It raises a pretty important question about trust and the potential for seemingly civilian infrastructure to be, well, weaponized on a global scale.
Then the scene cuts to General Barrett, who's in what the book describes as a mountain fortress.
Right.
She's discussing the Secretary of Defense's anxieties, the SecDef's worries about China just refusing to back down. But her own perspective is that, a simple show of force over Cuba will be enough to deter them. This immediately sets up a really interesting clash of perspectives, doesn't it? You've got this cautious concern right at the highest levels versus maybe a more assertive, perhaps even slightly dismissive view from someone closer to the potential action.
Precisely. And that difference in assessment really underscores a crucial challenge in leadership during crises, something you see play out in a lot of real-world scenarios. It's that tension between the broader, maybe more cautious view from the top and the more immediate action-oriented focus from those, on the ground. That disconnect, it can sometimes lead to critical miscalculations.
And the tension just keeps ratcheting up in that scene. Landers gives General Barrett this incredibly tight, 3-minute window to get out before the mountain is sealed. That image of her just racing through the tunnel at breakneck speed, and then her internal fear, that thought of a new war. It really drives home the immediacy and the potential scale of what's unfolding. It's no longer just some hypothetical conflict. It feels terrifyingly real and personal right in that moment.
Yeah, that sense of impending doom is just palpable. The author does a great job using these short, sharp scenes to build up that feeling of urgency and to, foreshadow the imminent outbreak of hostilities.
We then shift over to the National Military Command Center,
Yeah.
the NMCC. That's basically the Pentagon's nerve center, right? And Brigadier General Pike is about to deliver a critical briefing, and it's the dead of night. The fact that it's the middle of the night for everyone involved, that really underscores the gravity. You just know whatever they're about to hear is going to be significant, something that absolutely can't wait until morning.
Oh, yeah. Middle of the night briefings are always that classic signifier of a major crisis.
Yeah.
It instantly conveys the disruption and the sort of all hands on deck nature of whatever's unfolding.
And then the unthinkable happens. The chief of staff is telling the president they have less than 2 minutes. Less than 2 minutes before incoming missiles are out of range. President Alton's desperate plea for just a minute, just 60 seconds to think, but it's right up against this absolute ticking clock of the missile threat. It creates this incredible sense of panic and pressure. You can almost feel the weight of that decision bearing down on him.
This is that critical moment. This is where the situation shifts from just tension to outright conflict. That time frame, it's deliberately compressed, right? To emphasize the lack of options and just how fast decisions have to be made when you're facing a direct attack.
President Alton's eventual order to General Barrett get the Hughes City to engage the missiles, it feels like a true point of no return. It's that moment where defensive measures just give way to active engagement and, you just know this action will have massive repercussions. The Hughes City, by the way, that's a U.S. Navy warship, a cruiser.
Absolutely. That order marks the transition from any de-escalation efforts, however fragile they might have been, to a state of active military confrontation. No going back now.
And Admiral Teal, he doesn't waste a second, immediately recommends a counterattack go after those enemy ships and the launchers. And President Alton, looking, as the book describes, utterly defeated by the situation, he reluctantly approves. That reluctance is interesting, isn't it? It sort of suggests he understands the gravity, the danger of escalating further, but feels like he has absolutely no other choice.
That reluctance really underscores the weight of the decision, moving from defense to offense. It's a clear indication that the leadership gets the potential for further escalation and, the dangers of a full-scale conflict.
And then you get Admiral Thiel's direct order to the Hughes City and the Burkes, those are also U.S. Navy destroyers, Arleigh Burke class, engage those Chinese warships and the ground launchers with Tomahawk missiles. And that's it. We're in active combat. The words are just stark, decisive, leaving absolutely no doubt about the shift in the operational landscape. The Tomahawk, of course, that's a long-range subsonic cruise missile, a real workhorse for the Navy.
Yeah, the use of specific ship names, weapon systems, it really grounds the narrative in a sense of military realism, and it highlights that rapid transition to offensive operations.
The conflict quickly spills over to the naval level. You've got Commander Ziegler confirming 4 Chinese destroyers near Cuba, and then Dupree ordering the Hughes City to intercept, full speed ahead. You can almost feel the engines roaring as these ships just race towards each other.
And this sets the stage for a direct naval confrontation, doesn't it? It highlights the potential for clashes across different domains, air, land, sea, in this whole escalating crisis.
We then get this really brief but intriguing character sketch of Commander Dupree, seen through the eyes of one of his subordinate officers. We hear about his country music, spitting in a Gatorade bottle, the unpredictable questions about his Annapolis ring. It just paints this picture of a leader who doesn't quite fit the traditional mold.
Yeah, those small humanizing details are actually crucial. They make the characters feel relatable amidst all the high-stakes action. It shows us that even in these incredibly intense situations, it's individuals with their own quirks and personalities who are making these critical decisions.
Right, and the officer's surprise when Dupree gives him sincere praise, especially after some initial misjudgments, it adds another layer to his character. Shows he's not just unconventional, but also, capable of genuine appreciation. It's these little moments that make the narrative feel more authentic.
Absolutely. And those nuances in leadership styles can actually have a significant impact on how units function under pressure. A leader who can surprise and genuinely connect with their subordinates can often foster a stronger sense of loyalty and effectiveness.
But just as things are heating up, the TAO, that's the tactical action officer on Dupree's ship, reports a system glitch. Screens garbled for 7 seconds. It's brief, right? But it immediately raises a red flag. It hints at the possibility of, cyber warfare or electronic countermeasures already being in play.
Yeah, this introduces that whole element of technological disruption, which is such a key aspect of modern warfare. Even a momentary system failure at a critical moment, that could have devastating consequences.
The focus then shifts, moves to a U.S. watch center. And what starts as a seemingly routine shift takes this terrifying turn. Detection of multiple missile launches aimed right at the U.S. Initially, they think maybe they're sea launched near Cuba, but then they start seeing launches coming directly from Cuba itself. The situation is clearly far, far more serious than they initially understood.
That evolving nature of the threat, from sea launch to land-launched missiles, it just underscores the complexity and the sheer speed at which the intelligence picture can change during a conflict. It's dizzying.
And the rapid increase in the number of detected missiles, leveling off at a staggering 200, that really emphasizes the sheer scale and severity of this attack. It's not some small, isolated incident. This is a massive coordinated strike.
Oh yeah, the sheer volume of missiles indicates a deliberate and highly coordinated attack. It's designed to overwhelm defenses, inflict maximum damage. There's no ambiguity there.
The NORAD commander then relays President Alton's order for a retaliatory strike, confirming that shift to a full-blown conflict. And Commander Dupree's immediate confirmation, his instant action, it just highlights the incredibly rapid response required in such a scenario. There's absolutely no time for hesitation, zero.
The speed of that response, it underscores the level of readiness and, the pre-established protocols they have in place for exactly these kinds of contingencies. But it also highlights the inherent risks of escalation when decisions have to be made in moments like that.
Okay, so to understand how we even got to this point, the book then takes us back in time. February 2017, Shanghai. It introduces us to a character named Dan and this concept of China's social credit score. This system of, well, pervasive monitoring and control, illustrated by Dan literally not being able to book a hotel because his score is too low. It really highlights the stark differences in societal values and governance between, say, China and the West.
Right, and this flashback provides really crucial context for understanding the underlying tensions that might, contribute to international conflict down the line. That social credit system, it represents a fundamental difference in how individual rights and state authority are perceived.
Dan's conversation with another character, Lu, further emphasizes the growing importance of this social credit score within China and his own struggles trying to readjust after living abroad. It's a personal story, but it reflects this broader societal shift and the potential for friction when different systems, different values collide on the global stage.
That personal struggle of readjustment, it humanizes the impact of these huge, large-scale social and political systems. It reminds us these aren't just abstract concepts. They have real-world consequences for actual individuals.
And the rationale behind China offering free internet through this Dragon Link, it's then revealed it's not just about goodwill, right? It's a strategic move to monitor global internet traffic and feed all that data into their AI, giving them this massive intelligence advantage. That's a really unsettling revelation about the potential hidden costs of seemingly free services.
It really highlights the strategic value of data in the modern era, doesn't it? And the potential for seemingly benevolent initiative to have these underlying intelligence gathering purposes. Big time.
Dan's comparison of China's surveillance state to, say, London's CCTV network, and his mention of George Orwell's 1984 being banned in China, that offers a really thought-provoking perspective on these differing societal values. The fact that a book so critical of pervasive surveillance is just off limits, that speaks volumes about the society in question.
Yeah, the reference to 1984 serves as a powerful literary analogy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Highlighting the potential dangers of unchecked surveillance and the suppression of dissenting ideas.
We also get another conversation, this time between Dan and a character named Hank, touching on Alibaba's use of AI for analyzing consumer behavior. They draw parallels to Amazon and Google. This shows that AI isn't just a tool of the state. It's deeply embedded in the commercial world too, although maybe with different applications and implications.
That comparison illustrates the widespread adoption of AI across all sorts of sectors and the ongoing discussion about its ethical implications, whether it's in the hands of governments or corporations. It's everywhere.
But then Hank asks about something called Project 10. And Dan has this very telling slip-up, followed by immediate evasiveness. That really hints at something significant and super secretive happening within China. It plants this seed of suspicion about a major initiative that could have really far-reaching consequences.
Exactly. That planted seed of secrecy, it creates intrigue and definitely foreshadows the potential emergence of some major, as yet unknown Chinese program that could be absolutely central to the conflict that unfolds later.
Okay, moving forward in the timeline a bit, we see President Moros of Venezuela agreeing to massively increase oil production for China. And in exchange, a guaranteed high price. This highlights a growing economic alliance that directly challenges U.S. influence right there in the region. It's a clear example of how economic ties can really shift geopolitical power dynamics.
Yeah, that economic alliance demonstrates how China is strategically leveraging its economic power. They're building partnerships and expanding their influence in regions that have traditionally been dominated by the United States. It's a pattern.
Consul Wang Chu's speech on the Digital Silk Road Initiative, this happens at Stanford, and his reaction to the media coverage, it underscores China's ambition to lead global internet access, essentially outside of U.S. control. This isn't just about economics. It's about shaping the flow of information and potentially exerting digital influence on a truly global scale. The Digital Silk Road. Think of it as China's plan to build and control the internet's infrastructure in many parts of the world.
Exactly. The Digital Silk Road initiative really reveals China's ambition to establish itself as a dominant player in the digital realm, and that has significant implications for global communication, cybersecurity, everything.
And the book mentions the escalating trade war between the US and China, including the ban on products from Huawei and ZTE. This serves as a backdrop, a reminder of the existing tensions that were already fueling this volatile situation. It wasn't a sudden eruption, it was more like a slow burn, a buildup of various points of conflict over time.
Right, the trade war represents a really significant point of friction between the two nations. It highlights the economic competition that underlies so many of these geopolitical tensions we see.
Ambassador Wang Jieqi's discussion with General Song Fu, this is in Cuba in November 2019, reveals China's long-term strategic planning in the region. We're talking military modernization, infrastructure development. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment decision. It was a calculated, years-in-the-making effort to establish a significant presence right there in Cuba.
That timeline provides crucial insight into the long-term nature of China's strategic objectives and their patient approach to building influence in the Caribbean. They play the long game.
And the details that emerge about the construction, like a new airbase, a training facility on Isla de la Juventud, plus a cobalt mine, it further showcases China's growing presence and its pursuit of both strategic military positioning and resource acquisition in Cuba. It's a multifaceted approach, serving several of their national interests at once.
Right, the combination of military infrastructure development and resource extraction highlights the intertwined nature of China's strategic and economic interests in Cuba. They're hitting multiple goals.
And then we get this clandestine communication, right, between Ambassador Wang and the foreign minister back in Beijing. It reveals Operation Chengdu, a plan deemed viable and worth pursuing by the Chinese president himself. The secrecy around this operation strongly suggests something significant and potentially very dangerous.
The introduction of Operation Chengdu as this classified initiative, approved at the highest levels. It adds a layer of mystery and definitely foreshadows a potentially major plot point in the unfolding conflict. What is Operation Chengdu?
Meanwhile, on the U.S. side, National Security Advisor Wilson gets some deeply concerning intelligence from Katrina. This includes a possible agreement between China and Panama about naval ships docking, which, okay, maybe not huge in itself, but more alarmingly, the significant rearming and modernization of the Cuban military by China. This suggests a major shift in the regional military balance that maybe the U.S. hadn't fully grasped.
Yeah, the revelation of the extent of China's military support for Cuba, it highlights a potential intelligence gap on the part of the U.S. And it underscores just how rapidly the regional military balance was shifting.
The specifics are quite alarming when you hear them. The Cuban Air Force getting 5 squadrons of new Chinese fighters, J-10s and J-11s, and the upgrade of an entire Cuban mechanized division. That is a substantial increase in Cuba's military capability, clearly facilitated by China.
The details about the specific types and numbers of aircraft and the modernization of ground forces, they paint a really clear picture of a significant and rapid military buildup happening right there in Cuba.
Then National Reconnaissance Office photos reveal this new training base being built on Isla de la Juventud. And there's evidence of joint military exercises, combined arms training between Chinese advisors or military personnel and the Cubans. These are unprecedented levels of military cooperation in the region, a major red flag for U.S. security interests.
Those joint training exercises signify a deepening military alliance and a level of integration between the Chinese and Cuban forces that really hasn't been seen before. It poses a direct challenge to U.S. influence right on their doorstep.
Katrina and Wilson discuss the potential motivations, Maybe it's about trade negotiations, maybe strategic resource acquisition, maybe just training partner nations. The fact that there isn't one clear, singular explanation highlights the complexity of trying to understand China's intentions and the difficulty in figuring out the right response. It's like trying to piece together a puzzle with half the pieces missing.
Right. The multiple potential motivations underscore that challenge of interpreting an adversary's actions. You need a comprehensive analysis that considers all sorts of strategic and economic factors. It's rarely simple.
Then a DIA rep, that's the Defense Intelligence Agency, informs a rather unhappy character named Morris about China's massive foreign aid to Cuba over the past couple of years. We're talking billions for infrastructure projects and $2 billion specifically just for military modernization. This really explains the depth of the Chinese involvement and the extent to which Cuba has become reliant on Chinese support.
The sheer scale of that financial investment by China, from Cuba's infrastructure and military, reveals the depth of their commitment and the strategic importance they clearly place on this relationship. It's not trivial.
Then, in a really surprising twist, we have this scene involving Dr. Shi, Zimin, and Dan. And JD, the AI, speaks English and refers to Shi as father. This immediately showcases the advanced nature and the, well, almost familial connection she seems to have developed with this AI. It kind of blurs the lines between creator and creation in a really unsettling way.
Yeah, this scene introduces a potentially key character in JD, this advanced AI, and it highlights the close relationship its creator has with it, suggesting a level of dependence, maybe even emotional investment, which is interesting.
Dan explains further that JD knows 50 languages and just chose English for private conversations. This emphasizes the AI's sophisticated communication abilities and its potential for, frankly, autonomous thought and action that's a bit mind-boggling.
The AI's multilingual capabilities, its ability to choose a language for private communication. It hints at a level of sophistication that goes way beyond simple programming. This thing might have agency.
Okay, then comes a truly disturbing revelation. A conversation between President Yao and Zhang reveals that Project Chengdu is linked to ramping up vaccine production with a plan to release a virus in 6 months. The motive is horrifying.
Yeah.
Cull the weak, debilitate the West, and position China as the benevolent superpower during the recovery. This just shifts the entire narrative into much darker, much more sinister territory than just a typical military conflict.
That revelation of a bioweapon plot under the guise of Project Chengdu. Wow. It represents a dramatic escalation of the conflict and exposes a chillingly calculated and, frankly, ruthless strategy.
Back at USOFCOM, General Bridges and reps from various intelligence agencies are discussing all this increased Chinese activity in Cuba and Venezuela. The initial assessment kind of leans towards the Belt and Road Initiative, protecting trade routes, stuff like that. But the Australian representative disagrees, points to the extensive military modernization as evidence of a far larger, unknown plan. This highlights how different agencies can look at the exact same data and come to very different conclusions.
Right. The disagreement among intelligence agencies underscores the challenge of accurately assessing an adversary's intentions, even when you have significant amounts of data. Different agencies might prioritize different indicators or have different biases and arrive at conflicting conclusions. It happens.
Then Nigel from SIS, that's the Secret Intelligence Service, British intelligence, reveals that the quantum computer, Jade Dragon, isn't just processing social credit data. It's also crunching information from the Dragon Link satellite program. This massive data aggregation effort suggests a powerful tool for potential manipulation on a truly global scale. Think about the sheer amount of information that would give them access to. It's staggering.
The integration of data from the social credit system and the Dragon Link satellite program into Jade Dragon. It paints a picture of a highly sophisticated AI capable of analyzing and potentially exploiting vast amounts of personal and strategic information. That's a huge capability.
And amidst all this escalating global tension, we get this glimpse of political turmoil back in the U.S. President Alton, visibly stressed, announces to Vicky that he will not run for re-election, citing a recent diagnosis. This adds a layer of domestic instability right at a critical moment on the world stage, which could certainly complicate how the U.S. responds to this growing crisis. Bad timing.
Yeah, the announcement of the president's decision not to seek re-election introduces an element of political uncertainty within the U.S. at a time of significant international crisis. It could potentially impact the nation's ability to respond effectively, create a power vacuum, who knows?
Okay, let's return our focus to Cuba for a moment. We see Ortega Ramirez, described as a powerful Communist Party boss in Mariel, discussing the opening of a new port facility with another character, Esteban. He frames it as an economic revival for Cuba after the fall of the Soviet Union.
This is the public narrative, right? The story being presented to the Cuban people.
Right, this scene highlights the official narrative being promoted by the Cuban government regarding the Chinese investments. Emphasize the economic benefits. Downplay any potential military or strategic implications. Standard playbook.
But then we have a clandestine meeting. A Chinese man requests Esteban's help with some incoming shipments, hinting at covert operations happening right beneath the surface of this seemingly straightforward economic partnership. It suggests there's a lot more going on than meets the eye. That clandestine meeting suggests that, yeah, there is more to the Chinese presence in Cuba than just economic cooperation. It implies the existence of covert activities and definitely a hidden agenda.
Then there's a meeting between Ventura, the leader of Cuba, and Minister Han from China. It reveals that a significant but unspecified next phase is about to begin, and this will affect Cuba's trade with Europe. Han assures Ventura that China will ensure Cuba is taken care of, becomes a leader in the region. This suggests a coordinated, long-term plan to really shift the balance of power in the Americas.
That conversation between the Cuban leader and the Chinese minister reveals a coordinated long-term plan that goes way beyond mere economic partnership. They're aiming to reshape the regional balance of power and diminish U.S. influence. It's explicit.
We then get another flashback, this time to February 2024 in Oxford. Professor Hank Iverson meets with Dan, his former student who now works at Alibaba. They're discussing the ethical implications of controlling narratives, conditioning behavior. This delves into the sort of philosophical underpinnings of the immense technological power being developed and how it could be used for good or, well, for ill.
Right. This flashback explores those ethical dilemmas associated with advanced technologies like AI and the potential for their misuse in manipulating public opinion, controlling behavior. Heavy stuff.
Iverson then reveals his membership in the Secret Intelligence Service, SIS, to Dan. He's seeking information about Project 10 and Jade Dragon. This brings the shadowy world of espionage directly into Dan's life and raises the stakes considerably for him.
The revelation of Iverson's involvement with British intelligence adds that layer of international intrigue, doesn't it? And it sets the stage for potential collaboration and conflict in uncovering China's secrets.
Dan, who's becoming increasingly fearful, explains Jade Dragon's comprehensive social profiling capabilities and the grave danger Iverson is now in simply due to their association. This underscores the pervasive reach and potential consequences of this advanced AI. It's not just about data, it's about real-world threats to people.
Dan's fear really highlights the potential power of Jade Dragon in identifying and tracking individuals. It poses a significant threat to anyone who might oppose or even investigate its activities. You become a target.
A plan is then hatched to get Dan out, involving a staged accident. Dan also reveals to Iverson the truly alarming capabilities of JD, the AI, hinting at the immense power this artificial intelligence possesses, something far beyond simple data analysis.
The plan to extract Dan signifies the high stakes involved in gathering intelligence about China's programs, and his revelations about JD further emphasize the advanced and potentially dangerous nature of the AI they're dealing with.
Back in February 2024, we're on Isla de la Juventud with Jose Santiago, who's using a Canadian passport. He notices a significant and unusual increase in military-aged Chinese personnel on the island. This raises suspicions way beyond the known oil deal that's supposed to be happening there. His boots-on-the-ground observation starts to corroborate the intelligence reports that something big is definitely going on.
Right. This provides that crucial ground-level confirmation of the increased Chinese military presence in Cuba. It corroborates the intel reports and raises further alarms. It's not just analysts looking at photos anymore.
Jose also observes extensive construction at the harbor, dredging ships, reinforcing pier walls, and a newly built airport. All this despite the supposed relocation of the island's population. These discrepancies further fuel his doubts about the true nature of the Chinese activities there. The scale of the construction suggests a long-term, significant undertaking that goes way beyond just supporting an oil operation.
Exactly. The discrepancies between the official narrative and what he's actually seeing on the ground strongly suggest a covert military buildup that's being deliberately concealed. It just doesn't add up otherwise.
Okay, fast forward to Dan's defection debriefing. He confirms that Project Chengdu involves storing massive amounts of grain and agricultural goods, enough to feed a large portion of China for years, especially after the project begins. This adds another piece to the puzzle, suggesting a plan for long-term self-sufficiency, maybe in anticipation of a major global disruption or conflict.
That detail about the extensive food reserves linked to Project Chengdu adds a really significant dimension to the plan, doesn't it? It suggests preparation for a prolonged period of instability or conflict. They're stocking up.
When Nigel presses him about Project Chengdu, Dan refuses to divulge the core details without his demands being met. This showcases his strategic leverage. He's a defector with incredibly valuable information, and he knows it.
Dan's refusal to cooperate fully without his demands being met highlights the strategic importance of his knowledge and the high stakes involved in his defection. He's playing his cards carefully.
Dan does reveal one verifiable detail, though. Jade Dragon stole DNA information from genetic companies 17 months prior. This not only lends credibility to his story, but also raises incredibly serious ethical and security concerns about the AI's capabilities and China's intelligence gathering methods. I mean, stealing DNA data, that's a massive breach of privacy and security.
Yeah, the revelation of the DNA theft provides a concrete piece of evidence to support Dan's claims, and it underscores the intrusive and potentially exploitative nature of Jade Dragon's data collection. It's deeply concerning.
Back at CIA headquarters, Dottie is reviewing photos and reports about all the activity on Isla de la Juventud. She notes the new harbor, the new airport, and questions the motivations behind this Cuban-Chinese collaboration. This signifies the growing concern within the U.S. intelligence community and the start of further, more intensive intelligence gathering efforts.
Dottie's review of the intelligence and her initiation of further investigation demonstrate that growing awareness within the U.S. intel community. They know something suspicious is happening in Cuba, and they're digging deeper.
The chilling conversation about the true nature of Project Chengdu comes up again. President Yao is being briefed on scenarios involving the release of the virus. Dr. Xi argues that doing this will actually prolong China's food stores, weaken the West, and ultimately usher in a new world order, even if it means millions of deaths. This reveals a truly terrifying and ruthless calculation underpinning their entire strategy. Just cold.
The return to the bioweapon plot confirms the horrifying nature of Project Chengdu and reveals the cold, calculated rationale behind the plan. It seems based on a disturbing application of social Darwinism. Unbelievable.
General Bridges and others are briefed by Nigel and Jessica on the PLAs, that's the People's Liberation Army Super AI, Jade Dragon. It reveals its advanced and complex nature far beyond what they previously understood. The true capabilities of this AI are clearly becoming a major, maybe the major, concern.
That briefing on Jade Dragon emphasizes the advanced and potentially transformative role of AI in modern military strategy. It highlights the urgent need to understand and counter these kinds of technologies.
Nigel then explains deepfake technology and its connection to Jade Dragon. The AI has been trained to generate incredibly realistic digital images and audio of world leaders. This enables sophisticated disinformation campaigns that could destabilize nations, sow widespread chaos. This introduces a new and dangerous dimension to modern warfare, the weaponization of information itself.
The explanation of Jade Dragon's deepfake capabilities reveals a significant threat. These sophisticated disinformation campaigns are designed to sow confusion, undermine trust, manipulate public opinion. It's information warfare on steroids.
Wilson then receives a memo about a potential new superbug originating from China. This raises fears of another pandemic hitting on top of all the existing global challenges. He immediately contacts the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, highlighting the potential for multiple overlapping crises that could just overwhelm global response capabilities.
The emergence of a potential new superbug just adds another layer of complexity and threat to an already volatile situation. It raises fears of a cascading global health crisis. It's like, what else could go wrong?
Meanwhile, in Cuba, Captain Rodriguez is questioning a prisoner near the new airport. But Colonel Leopoldo Sintra soon takes over the interrogation. Shortly after, Colonel Luan, a Chinese officer, shows up and expresses unease about the captured individual, suggesting they might be from Western intelligence. This highlights the intense espionage and counter-espionage activities clearly underway in the region.
Yeah, this scene underscores the active intelligence war being waged right alongside the more overt military buildup. Both sides are attempting to gather information and counter the other's efforts. It's a shadow war.
Luan reveals that China is building far more than just a military base in Cuba. It's an entire military complex, port, and refinery. This signifies a long-term, deeply entrenched Chinese presence, suggesting they have absolutely no intention of leaving anytime soon.
The scale of that construction, a full military complex, indicates a permanent and significant strategic investment by China in Cuba. It goes far beyond just a temporary military presence. They're digging in.
Luan also boasts about a Chinese intelligence operation that hacked into the U.S. security clearance database, creating profiles for blackmail and recruitment purposes. This represents a major intelligence breach with potentially far-reaching consequences for U.S. national security, compromising sensitive information on countless individuals.
Wow. The revelation of the security clearance database hack exposes a significant vulnerability in U.S. intelligence and highlights China's aggressive cyber espionage capabilities. That's a huge blow.
Sintra and Luan then discuss a potential prisoner exchange, indicating the ongoing high-stakes game of espionage and the value placed on captured operatives by both sides.
The discussion of a prisoner exchange underscores the human element in espionage, right?
Yeah.
And the efforts countries will make to retrieve their captured agents, their valuable assets.
Back at CIA headquarters, Dottie is frustrated because her trip has been canceled due to a new virus spreading globally. This eerily mirrors the fictional timeline we're exploring and raises some uncomfortable parallels to real-world events that are still pretty fresh in our minds.
Yeah, the cancellation of Dottie's trip due to a new virus serves as a chilling reminder of the potential real-world implications of the fictional scenario, and it highlights the ever-present threat of global pandemics, unfortunately.
The book mentions a captured Chinese operative, Anna Montes, who leaked phony data. It was actually a honey trap designed to catch hackers to the FBI. This suggests a U.S. counterintelligence win. However, the Cuban request for the return of two captured Chinese nationals in exchange for Anna complicates the situation, forcing a difficult strategic decision for the U.S.
The mention of the honey trap operation and the subsequent request for the return of Chinese operatives highlights that ongoing battle in the shadows and the complexities of counterespionage. It's never straightforward.
Tara explains that a Chinese geology team discovered a cobalt deposit on Isla de la Juventud 6 years prior. This led to a long-term, 25-year exclusive mining contract in exchange for infrastructure development, port, power plant, roads. Amber adds that Chinese firms also leased areas for oil exploration in exchange for 20% of the production, meeting Cuba's needs and giving China a secure oil supply outside the Middle East and Africa. These resource deals provide a significant economic and strategic rationale for China's deep and growing involvement in Cuba.
Right. The details of the cobalt and oil deals provide a clear economic motive for China's presence in Cuba and explain the mutually beneficial nature of their relationship, at least on the surface.
But Joel from DIA hints that there's more to the Chinese presence than just economics, suggesting a broader strategic motive that ties directly into their military buildup and their long-term geopolitical goals in the Western Hemisphere.
Joel's comment reinforces that idea that economic interests are intertwined with larger strategic objectives in China's engagement with Cuba. It's both hands.
We then get an inside look at Project 10. Captain Lee is summoned to this secretive, heavily guarded facility after receiving cryptic instructions. The extreme security measures, non-disclosure agreement, armed guards, secure elevator, they underscore the immense sensitivity of this program. It's clear this is something they want to keep hidden at all costs.
The elaborate security surrounding the facility emphasizes the highly classified nature of Project 10 and the importance China places on maintaining its secrecy. Whatever it is, it's top secret.
Admiral Wei briefs senior officers, including Captain Lee, on Project 10. He emphasizes China's continued commitment to communism and introduces Dr. Xi Jinping as the head of the project and a leading AI expert. This highlights the ideological and technological drivers behind China's ambitions to become a global superpower.
That briefing underscores the ideological underpinnings of China's strategic goals and the absolutely central role of advanced technology, particularly AI, in achieving those goals.
Dr. Xi explains that Jade Dragon has been instrumental in the technological advancement of the Chinese military and will now integrate AI directly into war planning, strategies, and even combat actions. This marks a significant, potentially revolutionary shift towards AI-driven warfare, where machines could literally be making critical decisions on the battlefield.
Yeah, this revelation marks a critical turning point. It indicates China's intention to leverage AI not just for technological advantage, but for fundamental aspects of military strategy and operations. That's a huge leap.
Videos are shown of a U.S. Ford-class carrier and a Virginia-class submarine conducting drills. This highlights China's extensive intelligence gathering efforts and their intense focus on understanding U.S. naval capabilities. They are meticulously studying their main adversary.
The use of intelligence on U.S. naval operations indicates a deliberate effort by China to understand its primary competitor's strengths and weaknesses. Know your enemy.
Admiral Wei then unveils the true specifications of the new Chongqing Type 95A submarine, and they are far more advanced than previous intelligence suggested. It's heavily armed. 8 torpedo tubes, 8 unique VLS vertical launch system launchers capable of carrying all sorts of missiles, including land attack cruise missiles, anti-ship missiles, even sophisticated HQ-9 surface-to-air missiles from a sub.
Wow. The detailed specifications of the Chongqing submarine reveal a significant advancement in China's underwater warfare capabilities. That poses a direct challenge to U.S. naval dominance in that domain.
And the introduction of the new Yu-9 torpedo, equipped with an advanced AI targeting system, further underscores China's technological edge in naval warfare. An AI-guided torpedo. That's a potential game changer.
Yeah, the AI-powered torpedo represents a significant threat.
Yeah.
Its advanced targeting system makes it much harder to evade and counter, much more lethal.
Admiral Wei also details the Type 60 Dingyum battlecruiser. This thing is a massive nuclear-powered warship with unlimited range and significant power reserves for future upgrades. This signals China's ambition to directly challenge U.S. naval supremacy on the surface as well. They're no longer content to remain just a regional power.
The unveiling of the Type 60 battlecruiser demonstrates China's commitment to developing a true blue water navy, capable of projecting power globally and directly competing with the U.S. Navy's carrier battle groups. Big ambitions.
Dr. Shi then explains how Jade Dragon will revolutionize warfare by providing a far more accurate and adaptive adversary in wargame scenarios. It's capable of learning and exploiting weaknesses in enemy tactics in ways that traditional computer simulations just can't. He boldly asserts that this super AI will ultimately lead to China's victory over America and the West. This reveals the ultimate ambition and the chilling confidence behind Project 10.
Dr. Xi's assertion about Jade Dragon's potential to secure victory for China highlights the ambitious and, frankly, potentially dangerous goals driving their AI development in the military sphere. They believe it's their key.
Admiral Wei then secretly tasks Captain Li with a highly sensitive mission involving his submarine, the Changzheng 30. He emphasizes the need to understand its limits and simply win. This hints at a crucial and potentially aggressive deployment that could have major consequences.
The private mission assigned to Captain Li suggests that a critical and potentially high-risk deployment of this advanced submarine is imminent. He's being unleashed.
We then see Captain Li engaging a Chinese destroyer squadron in a simulated attack in the South China Sea. He demonstrates aggressive tactics that deviate sharply from standard naval doctrine, attacking from ahead, not astern like usual. He's clearly testing the boundaries, just as Admiral Wei instructed him to.
Captain Li's aggressive tactics in that simulated attack indicate a willingness to push boundaries and explore unconventional approaches to naval warfare, leveraging his new tech.
Chen, the commander of the destroyer squadron, is caught completely off guard by Li's unexpected maneuvers. This highlights the potential effectiveness of these new, non-standard tactics that his own forces just aren't prepared for.
The surprise and uncertainty of Captain Chen in the face of Li's unorthodox tactics underscore the potential for new technologies and strategies to disrupt traditional military thinking. It throws them off balance.
The Changzheng successfully sinks one of the Type 60 destroyers in the exercise using advanced mine torpedoes while skillfully evading counterattacks. It showcases its advanced capabilities even in just a simulated environment. This is a clear demonstration of the submarine's potential lethality.
The successful thinking of a major warship in the exercise validates the advanced capabilities of the Changzheng submarine and the effectiveness of Captain Li's tactics. It proves the concept.
Back in Cuba, Jose is reflecting on the increased Chinese presence and this mandatory flu vaccination program back in February, where the vials disturbingly had Chinese labels. This raises further concerns about potential ulterior motives beyond just the oil deal. It's another piece of the puzzle that just doesn't quite fit, especially given other intel.
Jose's observations about the vaccination program and the Chinese labels add another layer of suspicion to China's activities in Cuba, hinting at potential bioweapon-related operations, linking back to Chengdu.
A seemingly innocent exchange with Yami in the park involves a hidden message in a book and a vitamin bottle passed to Jose. This reveals his deep involvement in espionage. He's working undercover for a Canadian firm assisting the Cuba Oil Union, CUPET, a joint venture with the Chinese firm CNOOC. This confirms that intelligence operations are actively underway, with Jose right in the middle of it, using his cover.
The exchange in the park confirms Jose's role as an intelligence operative and highlights the clandestine nature of the information-gathering efforts. He's passing intel.
Back at the safe house, Dan realizes with a chill that the Chinese have found his back door into their systems. This indicates they are fully aware he is alive and still a threat. He then discovers a sinister-sounding program called Jedi, was activated shortly after his staged accident in Oxford and, chillingly, has pinpointed his exact location in Bayview. This reveals a truly sophisticated and terrifying tracking capability. He is in immediate and grave danger.
Dan's discovery that his backdoor has been compromised and that this Jedi program has located him signifies a major security breach. It places him in imminent danger from Chinese intelligence. They know where he is.
Han and his ruthless team track a group leaving the target building where Dan was located. They set up a swift and brutal ambush near the facility gate, killing Dan's unfortunate associate, the nerdy-looking computer guy, and capturing a woman and a man. This demonstrates the ruthlessness and chilling efficiency of the Chinese pursuit. They leave no loose ends.
The ambush highlights the deadly consequences for those who assist or harbor defectors from China. It showcases the lengths to which they will go to silence potential threats or retrieve assets. Brutal.
In a seemingly unrelated thread, DEA agent Jenkins intercepts a narco-submersible, encountering violent resistance from desperate drug runners. The chaotic struggle and eventual surrender occur against the backdrop of ongoing COVID-19 travel restrictions impacting agent meetings, a stark reminder of the pandemic's pervasive influence on even these kinds of operations.
Yeah, the DEA operation, while maybe seemingly unrelated, provides a glimpse into other ongoing law enforcement challenges and the real impact of the global pandemic on their day-to-day operations. It affects everything.
DEA agents Mike and Bill discuss an unusual and concerning surge in drug interdictions along the border, particularly a dangerous and potent mixture of fentanyl and heroin. This raises serious concerns about a potential increase in demand or maybe a sophisticated new trafficking operation that they need to get to the bottom of.
The surge in drug interdictions suggests potential disruptions to established trafficking patterns, or maybe the emergence of new threats along the U.S. border. Something's changing.
Katrina, back at the White House, is briefed by Rich on highly unusual and suspicious trading activity. It's happening in the bond market, pension funds, ETFs, involving significant and oddly specific dollar amounts. This strongly suggests potential economic manipulation that could be directly linked to the escalating global conflict. This could be a sign of a coordinated effort to destabilize the U.S. economy.
The detection of unusual financial activity definitely raises concerns about potential economic warfare, or at least efforts to destabilize the U.S. financial system alongside the military moves. Southern front.
During a tense National Security Council meeting, VP Jackson expresses utter disbelief as chilling intelligence reveals that China not only created and weaponized a new COVID virus strain, but also ensured their closest allies had a vaccine well in advance. The horrifying motive is questioned: to deliberately weaken global powers and seize a position of global dominance in the aftermath. This confirms the terrifying bioweapon plot right at the highest levels of the U.S. government, sending shockwaves through the room.
The confirmation of the bioweapon plot at the NSC level underscores the absolute severity of the threat and the potential for widespread global consequences. This is world-changing stuff.
The SecDef, the Secretary of Defense, raises grave concerns about the alarmingly large number of Chinese workers and soldiers already present in Cuba, El Salvador, and Venezuela. She rightfully deems it a clear violation of the long-standing Monroe Doctrine, which the U.S. has historically considered its sphere of influence. This sets the stage for a potentially forceful U.S. response right here in the Americas.
The SecDef's concerns highlight the potential for military confrontation in the Western Hemisphere due to that significant Chinese presence in these countries. It's a direct challenge.
President Alton, his face grim, orders Emergency Security Council and NATO meetings. He emphasizes the urgent need for a unified and strong international response to China's increasingly aggressive and destabilizing actions. This signals a significant move towards building a global coalition against China.
President Alton's call for international meetings indicates a recognition of the need for a coordinated global response to the multifaceted threats posed by China. They can't face this alone.
Nigel delivers devastating news to Mr. Wilson. Their prize defector, Ma Young, also known as Dan, was tragically killed in U.S. custody during that brutal Bayview attack, and the brave Jessica Parker was also lost in the chaos. This represents a significant and deeply regrettable intelligence failure and a major loss of invaluable information that could have shed light on China's plans. The chilling possibility that the Chinese realized Ma Young's death was staged is raised as a potential reason for their relentless and ultimately successful pursuit.
The confirmation of Dan's death and Jessica Parker's loss underscores the effectiveness of Chinese intelligence operations and the extremely high risks associated with defection. It's a huge loss for Western intelligence.
Foreign representatives at an emergency meeting expressed their unified agreement with the assessment that China deliberately engineered the devastating pandemic. General Bridges, recognizing the gravity of the situation, tasks them with urgently assessing their nation's potential naval and air support for a possible blockade of the Caribbean. This marks a very significant and escalatory step in the potential international response.
The agreement among foreign representatives and the planning for a potential blockade signal a growing international consensus against China and a possible coordinated military response. Things are heating up fast.
General Bridges, moving swiftly, instructs a Navy SEAL commander, Paul Pruitt, to immediately prepare his elite teams for potential large-scale operations in their area of responsibility. He recommends canceling all non-essential training courses to ensure the rapid deployment of fully operational units. This indicates a state of high military readiness for imminent and significant action.
The order to prepare for large-scale operations and deploy special forces signifies an imminent escalation in military activity and a shift towards a more direct confrontation. The SEALs are getting ready to go.
At the United Nations, Minister Han blandly dismisses the mounting accusations regarding China's extensive military presence in sovereign nations, arrogantly asserting it's purely at the request of those nations themselves. Standard denial. However, the British Foreign Secretary, backed by compelling, independently verified data from France and Germany, delivers a powerful condemnation. He confirms China did create and weaponize the COVID virus, developed a vaccine in secret beforehand, and knowingly unleashed it upon the world. He rightfully labels it a war crime and a crime against humanity. This creates a major diplomatic earthquake and isolates China on the global stage.
That confrontation at the UN and the presentation of evidence against China create a significant diplomatic crisis. It galvanizes international condemnation of their actions. They're being called out publicly.
Wilson views a shockingly realistic deepfake video. It purports to show Presidents Alton and the Russian president in a secret conversation discussing how the U.S. and Russia colluded to unleash COVID-24 in a diabolical plot to take down China. This blatant and sophisticated disinformation campaign highlights China's desperate efforts to manipulate global opinion and deflect blame for their own horrific actions.
The deployment of deepfake technology underscores China's strategy of using disinformation to sow discord and deflect blame for its actions. It's pure manipulation, trying to muddy the waters.
General Gary Bridges briefs Kurt on highly concerning and urgent intelligence. Night vision images revealing TEL transporter erector launcher systems at the port of Mariel in Cuba. These systems have been positively identified as carrying Longsword 10s or CJ-10s land attack cruise missiles, and chillingly, they're capable of carrying both high explosive and tactical nuclear warheads. This poses a direct, immediate, and existential threat to the United States. This escalates the crisis to a terrifying new level. Gary is already preparing to follow orders to ready the country for the very real possibility of a full-scale war with China.
The discovery of cruise missiles in Cuba capable of carrying nuclear warheads represents a major escalation of the threat. It brings the world perilously close to a nuclear confrontation. This is Cuban Missile Crisis level stuff, but maybe worse.
Major Fan, leading an elite 12-man Chinese Special Forces team codenamed Southblade, executes a daring high-altitude parachute jump from a stealth aircraft, their target, the American coast. This signals a bold and highly dangerous covert infiltration operation directly within the United States itself.
The deployment of Chinese special forces into the U.S. indicates a shift towards direct, covert action within American territory. The war is coming home, literally.
The Southblade team uses advanced HUD heads-up display technology for precise navigation during their jump and are met by a prearranged ground pickup. This confirms a well-planned and resourced operation already underway inside the U.S.
The coordination of the parachute jump and the ground pickup suggests a sophisticated and pre-planned infiltration operation. They have logistical support already in place within the United States. That's alarming.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Navy has proactively deployed sophisticated Orca AUVs, autonomous underwater vehicles controlled remotely via a network of subsurface buoys. These cutting-edge drones significantly enhance their anti-ship missile capabilities and offer autonomous targeting, giving the U.S. Navy a critical technological advantage beneath the waves.
The deployment of Orca AUVs highlights the increasing role of autonomous systems in naval warfare and their impact on intelligence gathering and targeting. Drones are fighting under the sea now.
Utilizing the integrated sensors of these Orca AUVs, a vigilant U.S. submarine detects a significant Type 075 Chinese landing helicopter dock in the area. It's a major find that underscores the effectiveness of these advanced autonomous underwater sentinels.
The detection of the Chinese landing helicopter dock by the Orca AUV demonstrates the effectiveness of these autonomous systems in gathering critical intelligence and tracking enemy assets. They see it coming.
A U.S. submarine commander, Captain Helgeson, observes a large and ominous Chinese fleet carrying a substantial number of troops heading directly towards the strategically vital Panama Canal. This poses a major and immediate strategic threat to U.S. interests and global trade. Despite the inherent risks of engaging such a large force, Helgeson makes the difficult, potentially war-altering decision to engage the fleet to prevent their transit into the Caribbean.
That decision to engage the Chinese fleet heading for the Panama Canal underscores the high stakes and the potential for a major naval confrontation with significant strategic implications. He can't let them through.
Commander Helgeson, described as a seasoned tactician, plans to use one of the Orca AUVs, the Killeen, to create a crucial diversion. It will cleverly mimic the acoustic signature of several Virginia-class submarines. This bold deception is designed to mask the USS Texas's daring attack on the unsuspecting Chinese fleet.
The plan to use an AUV for deception highlights the evolving tactics in submarine warfare and the innovative integration of autonomous systems. Using drones as decoys. Smart.
Commander Helgeson prepares the crew of the USS Texas for this daring and highly risky attack on the massive Chinese fleet steaming towards the Panama Canal. He fully acknowledges the immense inherent dangers. As they prepare, sonar on the Texas detects a large, previously completely unknown warship lurking in the wake of the massive Chinese aircraft carrier Liaoning. This mysterious vessel is classified simply as unknown, but is now being visually confirmed via rapidly tasked satellite imagery. This highlights China's alarming, advanced, and stealthy naval development that has gone completely undetected until this critical moment. Just as Helgeson is about to give the final order to attack, the Texas is violently struck by 4 powerful depth charges. It causes significant and immediate damage, tragic casualties among the crew. It brutally underscores the intense and unforgiving nature of underwater battle. Despite the devastating attack on his own vessel, Helgeson bravely orders immediate countermeasures and evasive maneuvers. At the same time, he receives confirmation that the massive Liaoning has broken apart and sunk beneath the waves, a major and strategically significant success, but one that has come at a very steep and painful cost for the USS Texas and its valiant crew.
That attack on the Texas and the sinking of the Liaoning mark a major clash between the two navies. It reveals both the advanced capabilities of China's new warships and the immense risks involved in direct confrontation, and that emergence of a previously unknown Chinese warship. That underscores the element of surprise and the ongoing technological race between the two powers. What else do they have?
Jenks' elite SEAL team bravely infiltrates a heavily Chinese-occupied oil platform in the tense Gulf of Mexico. They face treacherous patrols, challenging weather, driving rain, thick mist obscuring their movements. Demonstrating their exceptional training and skill, they successfully breach the heavily guarded control room, swiftly neutralizing the surprised enemy soldiers and securing the vital platform. Their primary objectives are immediately met, shutting down all pumps and power to prevent a catastrophic environmental oil spill into the Gulf. In a crucial secondary mission, Jenks' team successfully locates and rescues Juliet Platoon, who were trapped and under heavy fire. They now await the arrival of reinforcing U.S. Marines to fully secure the remainder of the strategic oil platform. This showcases the incredible effectiveness and adaptability of U.S. Special Operations Forces in highly dangerous and complex situations.
The SEAL team's successful operation on the oil platform demonstrates their capabilities in securing critical infrastructure and rescuing personnel in hostile environments. That swift and decisive action prevented a potential environmental disaster and saved American lives. A clean win.
In the aftermath of the devastating Chinese missile attack, U.S. forces have launched immediate and forceful retaliatory strikes against key enemy targets. Deep within China, General Gao Weiping, the commander of China's Strategic Support Force, urgently asks the architect of Project 10, Dr. Xi, about the precise timeline for deploying sophisticated video images of the U.S. missile attacks and the resulting damage in the next wave of their insidious deepfakes disinformation campaign. This chilling exchange reveals China's immediate and calculated plans to weaponize information and exploit the chaos and destruction caused by the physical attacks for their own strategic advantage in the global information war.
China's immediate plan to use deepfakes to exploit the missile attacks highlights the integration of cyber and kinetic warfare. It shows their ongoing efforts to control the narrative and manipulate global perception of the conflict, even as bombs are falling.
With the president issuing the direct order, Operation Ortsack is now a full go. The might of the U.S. Air Force and Navy is unleashed upon Chinese and Cuban forces, marking a significant escalation in the conflict. Simultaneously, Chinese state-controlled media begins to disseminate false reports claiming a Chinese freighter was attacked and sunk by an Italian frigate in international waters, a blatant lie immediately and vehemently disputed by the Italian government. This clearly illustrates the intense and ongoing information war being waged alongside the physical battles. Ian's squadron of advanced F-22 Raptor stealth fighters takes up a crucial combat air patrol mission high above Cuba, providing essential protection for incoming U.S. bomber formations heading towards critical targets. During the intense air combat, Hani, Ian's skilled wingman, engages a maneuvering Chinese J-11 fighter, only to experience the terrifying electronic shriek of a missile lock from a deadly ground-based SAM surface-to-air missile site. Despite deploying effective countermeasures and executing evasive maneuvers, another pilot in the squadron, codenamed Racer, is tragically hit by an enemy missile. He suffers a painful shoulder wound, is forced to eject, parachuting down into the dense Cuban jungle. Just as he's evading pursuing enemy soldiers, Racer is unexpectedly rescued by a mysterious figure moving with incredible speed and agility, a fleeting green blur who swiftly carries him away into the dense undergrowth, leaving behind a host of unanswered questions about this enigmatic rescuer. The skies above Cuba have become a deadly and contested battleground.
The launch of Operation Ortsac II signifies a major U.S. military response, while the conflicting media reports underscore that information war being waged alongside the physical conflict. The downing of Racer and his mysterious rescue add that element of individual heroism and intrigue to the unfolding air war. Who saved him?
Wave after wave of formidable B-21 Raider stealth bombers, carrying their lethal payloads of deep-penetrating bunker-buster bombs and precision-guided JDAM's Joint Direct Attack munitions, stealthily head towards high-value, heavily fortified targets deep within Cuba. Despite their advanced stealth capabilities, the B-21 pilots report encountering surprisingly heavy enemy radar activity, indicating the Chinese and Cuban forces are actively trying to track their movements, even the stealth birds. Preceding the stealth bombers, a massive barrage of more than 100 Greyhound's long-range cruise missiles slam into targets across the entire island, delivering a devastating initial blow.
The deployment of B-21 stealth bombers highlights the U.S.'s commitment to utilizing its technological advantages in the air domain, striking deep into enemy territory. That preceding cruise missile barrage aims to soften defenses and overwhelm enemy air defenses before the bombers arrive. Standard procedure, but on a massive scale. With President Alton presumably in a secure location, Abney, now acting with fierce determination, directly confronts the assembled generals, admirals, and senior advisors in the White House Situation Room. Her frustration is palpable as she demands answers about their collective failure to effectively counter the relentless Chinese deepfake campaign and the sustained enemy attacks. She makes it clear that a new, far more effective strategy is urgently needed to regain control of the narrative and protect the nation. The pressure on the U.S. leadership is clearly immense and mounting with each passing moment.
Abney's forceful confrontation underscores the challenges of countering sophisticated disinformation campaigns and the immense pressure on U.S. leadership during this multifaceted crisis. That inability to effectively counter the deepfakes is a significant vulnerability that China is actively exploiting. It's working.
A highly mobile HIMARS high-mobility artillery rocket system unit is rapidly deployed to Southeast Point in the strategic Florida Keys. They swiftly prepare to unleash their long-range MGM-168 Block V ATAC-EMS Army Tactical Missile System missiles. These powerful rockets boast an impressive range, up to 380 miles, putting numerous key targets within Cuba directly in their crosshairs. The soldiers manning the HIMARS unit are briefed that elite Green Berets are already operating deep inside Cuba, actively identifying and confirming high-value targets for their precision strikes. The gravity of the situation is underscored as the soldiers are somberly reminded of the recent devastating missile attacks on MacDill Air Force Base and the city of Tampa, making the threat all too real and personal. Adding to the sense of unease and heightened tension, a local resident delivering essential food supplies to the deployed unit openly carries a sidearm on his hip, a stark visual reminder of the pervasive sense of insecurity and the breakdown of normalcy among civilians living in the potential conflict zone.
The deployment of HIMARS to the Florida Keys and the presence of Green Berets in Cuba indicate preparations for a significant ground component to the U.S. response. Long-range precision strikes will play a key role. That reminder of the attacks on Florida emphasizes the real and present danger to the U.S. homeland. It's not abstract anymore.
Deep within the dense Cuban jungle, Sergeant First Class Rustin Curry and his highly trained ODA Operational Detachment Alpha 7322 team successfully identify the camouflaged locations of several enemy TL vehicles hidden beneath the thick canopy. Curry immediately relays the critical coordinates back to command. Moments later, the ODA team encounters a full platoon of enemy soldiers moving through the jungle. Their intentions are unclear. Are they actively searching for the elusive American Special Forces team, or are they perhaps hunting for the downed U.S. pilot, Racer? The ground war in Cuba has begun, and the risks for the small ODA team are rapidly escalating.
The engagement of ODA 7322 with enemy forces marks the beginning of direct ground combat in Cuba. Their mission to identify key targets highlights the importance of special forces in the early stages of a conflict, guiding those strikes.
The tense combat search and rescue CR mission, codenamed Loki 1, reaches the perilous vicinity of the downed pilot, Racer. They're braving hostile airspace in a desperate attempt to extract him before he falls into enemy hands. As Loki 1 approaches, Racer, still evading determined enemy soldiers on the ground, is tragically shot again, further complicating the already high-risk rescue operation. Just as capture seems inevitable, the mysterious green blur reappears with astonishing speed, snatching the wounded pilot and vanishing back into the dense jungle, leaving the CR team wondering who or what just intervened.
The mysterious rescue of Racer adds that element of the unexpected. It raises questions about potential third parties or unknown factors involved in the conflict. Who is the green blur? And the repeated shooting of the pilot underscores the extreme dangers of operating in enemy territory.
Meacham and Decker, seasoned Marine aviators, discuss the extreme dangers of attempting to fly fixed-wing aircraft directly into Cuba due to the surprisingly effective and numerous enemy SAM sites now active across the island. They reluctantly agree that helicopter insertion, while still risky, offers a slightly higher chance of success compared to a large, less maneuverable C-130 transport aircraft. Meanwhile, President Alton, his concern etched on his face, urgently inquires about the feasibility and timeline of a potential full-scale marine invasion from the sea. He specifically expresses deep worry for the besieged U.S. garrisons stationed at Guantanamo Bay, and is also acutely aware of the looming timing of the upcoming presidential election, adding a complex political dimension to the urgent military planning.
The discussions about insertion methods and a potential marine invasion highlight the complexities of planning large-scale military operations in a contested environment, especially with political considerations in play. The effectiveness of enemy air defenses necessitates careful consideration of insertion strategies. You can't just fly in.
A weary and clearly exhausted Hatfield briefs his squadron of pilots on their next critical mission, providing essential close air support for the U.S. Marines and Army forces preparing for a major ground invasion of Cuba. He acknowledges the surprisingly accurate and persistent Chinese SAM threats that have already taken a toll on their air assets, as well as the sporadic but still dangerous activity of enemy fighter aircraft in the area. The air war over Cuba is proving to be a far more challenging and costly endeavor than initially anticipated, even for the highly trained American pilots.
That briefing highlights the ongoing challenges of achieving air superiority over Cuba. It's due to the effectiveness of Chinese air defenses and the continued presence of enemy fighters. Providing close air support in such a contested environment, extremely dangerous.
Deep within a secure Chinese command center, President Yao, his expression troubled, directly questions the seemingly infallible Dr. Xi. He asks about the super AI Jade Dragon's continued unwavering prediction of ultimate victory, despite the significant and mounting losses of Chinese fighter jets, air defense systems, and crucial cruise missile launchers in Cuba. Dr. Xi, however, remains completely unfazed and chillingly confident. He steadfastly maintains the AI's forecast of overall strategic success, even in the face of tangible battlefield setbacks. This raises serious questions about the true reliability and adaptability of the AI's predictions when confronted with the unpredictable realities of actual warfare.
President Yao's skepticism and Dr. Xi's unwavering faith in the AI's predictions raise important questions, don't they, about the limitations and potential biases of AI in assessing complex, rapidly evolving conflict scenarios. Is the AI too optimistic despite the losses? It warrants careful scrutiny?
Captain Lee, aboard the advanced Changseng submarine, meticulously reviews the latest intelligence reports on the aggressive and highly capable commander of the damaged USS Texas. He recognizes him as a dangerous and resourceful adversary. Based on this assessment, Lee makes a strategic shift in his hunting priorities. He now focuses his attention on the potentially more vulnerable USS Maine, a ballistic missile submarine, a boomer, and tasks a dedicated squadron of his ASW anti-submarine warfare ships to actively hunt down any remaining American submarines operating in the area. The naval strategy is clearly shifting towards a concentrated effort to eliminate the U.S. submarine threat, especially the nuclear deterrent.
Captain Lee's shift in focus towards hunting down U.S. ballistic missile submarines represents a significant strategic change in the naval conflict, prioritizing the elimination of a key element of U.S. nuclear deterrence. That's a major move.
On board the Changseng, Captain Lee's highly skilled sonar operator reports a crucial contact. It just passed through their network of strategically placed underwater listening buoys. The acoustic signature analysis indicates a very high probability that the contact is indeed the elusive USS Maine. With grim determination, Captain Lee designates the target Master 1, issuing the order to prepare for imminent engagement. The hunter has finally located its primary prey in the silent depths.
The detection and targeting of the USS Maine sets the stage for a critical and potentially devastating underwater confrontation. This has significant implications for the overall naval balance in the conflict. Taking out a boomer is huge.
The crew of the USS Maine are on edge. There's a palpable tension feeling the cramped confines of the submarine after losing all communication contact with the USS Pearl and other friendly naval assets operating in the region. Adding to their growing unease, they had previously detected the presence of a suspected Type 93 Chinese attack submarine lurking nearby, but have now frustratingly lost track of its precise location. This leaves them feeling increasingly isolated and potentially vulnerable to an unseen enemy in the dark ocean depths. They know they are likely not alone down there.
The tension aboard the USS Maine, the loss of contact with other vessels, it highlights their growing isolation and vulnerability in a hostile underwater environment. And having detected, then lost, the Chinese sub, that just adds to the sense of immediate threat. Where is it?
In a proactive move to try and locate the suspected Type 93 Chinese submarine that they had previously detected, the USS Maine launches its own ASW helicopters armed with sophisticated sonar buoys. Simultaneously, the crew remains on high alert for potential air threats, knowing that Chinese J-15 fighter jets could also pose a danger to their vulnerable position even far out at sea. They are actively hunting, while also being aware that they themselves could become the hunted at any moment.
The deployment of ASW helicopters and sonobuoys indicates the Maine's proactive efforts to locate and neutralize the potential threat. But the awareness of potential air threats underscores the multi-domain nature of modern naval warfare. Danger from above and below.
Then a tragedy strikes without warning. A stealthily launched Chinese SLAM submarine-launched anti-aircraft missile unexpectedly streaks from the depths. It directly targets and obliterates one of the Maine's ASW helicopters. The devastating attack results in the tragic deaths of Lieutenant Mills and Petty Officer 3rd Class Martinez. It highlights a surprising and deadly capability of the advanced Chinese submarine fleet, their ability to engage aerial targets. The loss of the helicopter and its crew sends a shockwave of grief and heightened alarm throughout the USS Maine.
The destruction of the ASW helicopter by a submarine-launched missile highlights a surprising and dangerous capability of the Chinese submarine fleet. It further increases the vulnerability of U.S. submarines and their support assets. And the loss of life underscores the human cost of this escalating conflict.
With the Maine now under immediate and heightened threat, Commander Bell takes decisive command. Her experienced TAO urgently reports detecting the acoustic signatures of the suspected Type 93 Chinese submarines, and alarmingly, the launch of multiple torpedoes heading in their direction. However, the TAO notes a highly unusual and unsettling pattern in the torpedoes' behavior. Instead of actively pursuing the Maine, they appear to have launched and then just strangely remained almost stationary in the water after their initial deployment. This bizarre and unexpected tactical element introduces a perplexing new mystery and a potentially deadly unknown factor to the intense underwater battle unfolding in the cold depths.
That unusual behavior of the Chinese torpedoes introduces a tactical mystery, doesn't it? It suggests the use of advanced or unconventional underwater weaponry, potentially designed for a purpose other than direct, immediate attack on the USS Maine. What are they doing? This raises serious questions about China's underwater tactics and technology.
So this deep dive into just the opening stages of Monroe Doctrine, Volume 9, really throws you headfirst into a world consumed by immediate and, frankly, terrifyingly escalating conflict. You've experienced firsthand how cutting-edge technologies like sophisticated AI, clandestine satellite networks, and advanced weaponry are rapidly reshaping the very nature of warfare, blurring the lines between nations and creating a landscape of constant, unpredictable threats. The initial devastating missile strikes, the swift and often brutal retaliations, and those deeply unsettling glimpses into China's long-range strategic ambitions. They paint a stark and honestly chilling picture of a perilous new global era. The perplexing and ominous behavior of the Chinese torpedoes down in the cold depths, and that insidious, pervasive deepfake disinformation campaign, they leave us grappling with far more questions than answers about the grim realities that might lie ahead. So what was the most gripping or surprising moment for you in this rapid descent into global conflict and the surprising technological twists we've explored? What are your initial thoughts on the increasingly pivotal, maybe even decisive, role that artificial intelligence appears to be playing in dictating not only military strategy, but perhaps even the ultimate fate of nations? This is clearly just the opening salvo in what promises to be a deeply complex and profoundly terrifying confrontation. And we highly encourage you to share your insights, your reactions, any theories you might have down in the comments section below. If you're eager to continue unraveling this gripping and, well, disturbingly timely thriller and see where this high stakes conflict leads, be sure to follow the Amazon link for Monroe Doctrine, Volume I, that we've included in the description. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.